Why should we be worried about the future? People are very unwise, selfish and short-sighted. Technology is enabling more and more people to make very bad long-term destructive decisions more and more rapidly. Being 24, I'll hopefully be dead before that really hits. Edit, I mean before it's socially crippling. I read the news. Imagine you're 33 and an immortality pill becomes cheaply and commercially available. Would you take it? Not that I would want to be fully immortal, but my son is on the autism spectrum, and being there for him until his natural death would really be wonderful. I could die in peace after. This fucking guy cutting onions over here. War over water, antibiotic resistance. There will come a point in which antibiotics won't work on most bacteria and infections/diseases will be so hard to cure. It will be like going back to the 1800s where people would die for a cough. There's something called bacteriophages that help the body get rid of diseases like antibiotics. The main difference is bacteriophages don't attack human cells at all. Once the technology gets improved, it will be a great thing. And the best part is, if bacteria becomes resistant to it, they lose their resistance to antibiotics and vice versa. That's actually really dope and makes me feel a little better. I'm still a doomer though. Okay doomer. I scrolled through the comments for about 10 seconds before I got too stressed and had to stop. Well, I mean, gestures broadly. Yeah man, I agree. It seems too large to quantify or qualify. Increasing population, increasing consumption, and increasing pollution of all kinds in a finite system seem to be coming to a head. I'm concerned about the future for all of us. Microplastics, antibiotic resistance, rapidly rising CO2 levels, chemical pollution killing algae in the ocean leading to declining oxygen levels. Take your pick. Rapid dying of bee colonies. Superbugs could get really bad. Edit, I'm not sure you guys know what I meant XD. Pollinators are dying. Without pollinators, nature as we know it might cease to exist, meaning the very basic environment that allows us to live is actively dying, and we are all doing basically nothing to stop it. We just do the vanilla thing. Looming economic crisis in the United States. It's tough now. Let's see. Edit, I'm in the US. I understand the coronavirus has impacted the world economy. Economic crisis everywhere, not just the US. The global economy took a hit. Other countries have been much more proactive about guaranteeing unemployment benefits, UB, or stimulus packages though. Countries like the US that haven't taken measures to protect citizens and jobs are going to take significantly longer to bounce back once the pandemic is over. All the STS people mentioning in this thread, with the added fact that we as a species know better but aren't doing anything to stop it. A little here and there, sure, but the tide of all this is rising. We are terrible. I've been looking into quantum computing recently, and the capabilities will be super amazing. Basically current security measures will not matter because a quantum computer will break today's encryption methods extremely quickly, within a day. While I agree, I really think it's just a rat race. Encryption methods will catch up eventually. That it's becoming harder and harder for a generation to make an income that will give them a life as good as the parents, unless they started with a reservoir of capital. I honestly have no excitement or hope about my future outside of high school. I expect it to just be me killing myself working, only to still be broke. The way I see it, F it. Go live in a van and barely work more than you need to eat. If you're gonna be broke no matter what, at least have a life. Globalization and the internet allows the spreading of stupidity like people that trespass to take pictures of trains. People that climb on top of trains to be cool or ride for free, only to not have the chance to realize the train is electric and the mere proximity to the overhead wires fries them to a point where you can be lucky if you can be identified as human in a laboratory. If there is a sign warning of electricity, don't take it lightly and keep your distance. That stuff kills you before you can finish editing a dig calm. This is really specific, but interesting. So many people consume from technology and have no clue how it really works. It's one thing if you can't explain your microwave, but your microwave doesn't track your texts, calls, photos, location, SSN, etc. Superbugs is one of the biggest potential threats out there. Right now we are overusing drugs like antibiotics at an alarming rate, as if they were like gummy bears or something. People take antibiotics for the smallest cold which could easily go away by itself in a few days. Because of COVID, right now citizen streets are being dumped with loads of disinfectants to kill bacteria and viruses. But what happens if all the bacteria and viruses susceptible to modern antibiotics and disinfectants die? For example, bacteria are always mutating, and when all the weaker ones are killed off, the only ones left are those which are immune and resistant to everything we've thrown at their species so far. What you're left with is strains of bacteria which do not die in alcohol and are resistant to modern/current medicine. That's so scary to think about, considering that there are things out there much worse than COVID. This may sound a little far-fetched, but there's a species of fungus which basically turns ants into zombies. What if something like that suddenly decides to mutate and jump into humans one day? There are ancient viruses and bacteria in the melting glaciers of the Arctic that are so old that they can't even be classified using modern science. Just look at what COVID has done so far. COVID is a test for the world in our preparedness for greater pandemic level threats, and we are failing so far. If something worse and more resistant comes along, we are ducked. Countries shouldn't be amping up their defense budgets for their militaries. They should be amping up research dollars for biological treatments and research. Cause the real enemy isn't some foreign country, it's underneath the microscope. Did you just leak 2021? Lol, so you think 2020 is over, do ya? High pathogenic avian influenza mutates rapidly into new strains affecting new and unpredictable species, including humans. In Asia, the level of alert related to monitoring new HPAI strains and outbreaks is very high, because there is so much interface between people and their chickens and ducks. The Rona isn't good, but a new HPAI strain and outbreak starting in Asia would be worse. So if China succeeds in taking over Asia and gets a little too cocky again, we'll be looking at pandemic to avian boogaloo. Global warming, the economy going in the toilet, people in power making bad choices. Yosemite is holding the fart. You mean Yellowstone? Could they both be gassy? When one lets it go, the other will sneak this out too so nobody notices. We shouldn't. Worrying just makes things worse. Make preparations against future problems if you can, but don't spend your energy worrying when you've done that. One more comment. Us born in the 90s or late 80s are the only people who actually seen climate change occurring in their lifetime. It's gonna take 20 to 30 years before we are in charge and we can fix shit, which makes me worried that it might be too late by then. Metal music and grunge fading away. From the mainstream maybe it's fading, but trust me, if you know where to look there is just so much metal and a wide variety of subgenres. Oh good god, in the subgenres. I hear people say it all sounds the same, but even within one subgenre there's so much diversity. I mean, like with death metal you have a band like Cannibal Corpse which sounds so different than say Opeth. Technically, you're allowed to care about that you want. No one should be able to tell you what to think. However, children don't choose to enter this world, even if they are not our own. It's generally considered selfish behavior to leave the younger generation with more of a mess to deal with when we check out. We are living case in point right now. Basically, people can worry about what they want, but not caring about kids' futures is kind of a D move. Just reminding that the smartest people keep warning us that AIs can be very dangerous when they advance further. Elon Musk doesn't really count here. Is anybody in the field of AI and robotics saying this? Because most scientists are saying that we are nowhere close to where science fiction points. Malignancy has been rising in popularity. Compassion of any sort is often called virtue signaling, and being empathetic is considered weak. Most stuff that I see ragged on as virtue signaling are people videotaping themselves doing nice things, which is kind of awful. If you're going to tip some waiter/waitress $200, that's great. Why do we need a video and some big spectacle made out of it? because we F up legitimately everything, and you can't convince me otherwise. Crushing national debt. I agree that stimulus payments these days are probably necessary, but how will this end? Thing is, the stimulus is only the 23rd and 24th trillion. It was only a small part of the total debt. The user threw $1 trillion on it in 2018 for no reason. At least this pandemic relief did have a reason. Global warming. But I experienced winter last season, and it wasn't warm at all. We'll all die and our conceptions of the beyond will finally be challenged. Soon we'll all be on leashes. Shorter ones than we are on now. The biggest thing we have to worry about is the degradation of human on human behavior. We'll kill ourselves long before the earth or cosmic forces do.